Okay, today's video we're going to talk about call extensions on Google Ads as well as Facebook ads, and how this little trick right here will get you upwards of 44% more calls or clicks on the phone number to call you when people are on their mobile device. Or just people seeing the number and dialing it in on their phone while they're on a desktop device than you had before. This is a very, very simple trick, and it has to do with having your phone number look local or more local than the phone number that you're displaying to customers right now. Obviously, if you're not, well, just to tell you up front, if you're not a local style business, or you're dealing with people locally, that this method isn't going to necessarily work for you or help you because it's not relevant to what you're doing. However, if you are dealing with people locally, whether you're a national company, but you still have lots of locations that each individually deal with people locally, this right here will for sure guarantee you more calls from what you're, and generate more calls from your area. Also, the phone calls will be cheaper than the phone calls that you got before as well, specifically coming from the call extension number that you have set up through and with your ads right now. So I'm going to explain the details on this and how this exactly works, what you need to be able to do to get this extra 44%, which from what we're seeing, and as soon as we figure this out ourselves and started using it, our minimum increase in the number of calls you're going to get is 15%, but you can get upwards of 50% more calls on the call extension number by using this strategy. So with that said, get into the content. So most people who use call extensions for Google ads and Bing ads, like I said, is also certainly applies to that. And if you do Bing ads, you should obviously apply it there too. By the way, if you're not doing Bing ads now, you should be using Bing ads because the conversions are typically a little cheaper than Google and the lead quality is better, and you're going to get higher job sizes from Bing as well. So in other words, it might only get you an extra 15% more clicks from your market than what you're going to get from Google using the same keywords. But the profit might certainly be 30% of your profit once you've implemented Bing, because the margin and the deal size is better on the Bing leads that you get. Just as a small side tip. That said, the call extensions, the people who use them don't normally worry about tracking the phone calls that they're getting from call extensions, which in some markets, it's half of the calls you're going to get are going to be from the call extension number. So they don't necessarily track these calls because they don't think about the impact of the number, or how many calls that it really actually gets them. And they certainly don't think about optimizing that call extension number to get more calls out of it in general. Using a Callrail account or other call tracking provider, it could be, I recommend Callrail because that's not only just what we use for our PPC agency and have for years, and tested out the various call tracking systems, and Callrail is the one that generally works the best. That's why we use it. With the call tracking system or Callrail, you could track more than whether somebody just clicked on your phone number in your phone call extension. You can actually track how many calls itself that you got through the number that shows on your phone call extension, as this is what it actually allows you to do. And I should have probably clarified this up front. If you still aren't clear on what a call extension is, this is simply, if you got your ad on Google here, the phone number that's directly underneath your ad would be your call extension. You have to obviously turn that on via your Google campaigns in order to have it. But the idea here is that when people search on Google, without even, in some markets, without even having to click through the ad, you already know you just want to call somebody. This would be a market like in the towing business. You don't really care. Certainly people care, but they don't care as much, or there'll be some portion of that market who don't really care to go to a website to investigate the company. They just want to call the first person that they see, kind of like a yellow page listing used to be. You just saw the company name, the phone number, they called the number. Some people will just call that number straight out. If you're on a mobile device, you click on this on your mobile device, that takes the number, ports it into your phone app on your mobile device, and then you can just click send and you could call that number. On a desktop device, you could obviously whip out your mobile phone and then just type in the number that you see on that ad on the call extension. And so naturally, the people that do this, the quality might be a little bit less because potentially they weren't quite as invested into researching into you. But nevertheless, there's a certain percentage of people who come to Google who aren't going to want to go to the website. They're just going to call the first company they see or what have you. And without the call extension there, you're going to lose a certain percentage of the market share you could get through Google by not having the call extension. So what we're trying to do here in this video is tell you that don't just wing the call extension. Given in a lot of different markets, it can be upwards of half the calls. The average would be in a local market would be 10 to 20% of the calls come from the call extension number. But of that 10 to 20%, you want to certainly get as much out of that as you can, given a lead is a lead, so to say, if you will. You can make money on getting more leads. Of course, you'll get a cheaper cost per lead if the phone number that's there gets actually used more than it was before. Given click-through rate on your ads will dictate how much you're paying per call. The higher the click-through rate on the ad or the higher the usage of the number per time it shows up for the user, the cheaper every call is going to be for you. So certainly you should be in a position to just want more calls at the same cost per call that you're getting now because you spent time optimizing your campaigns. If you're not, it can certainly get your cost per call cheaper, and do that for you, which in reality, it kind of does both at the same time. The call is going to get cheaper if you use this methodology that I'm sharing with you here today. You're also going to get more calls at the same time. So what is this all about? So of course, through Callrail, as I mentioned, so Google by default, they will let you know how many people saw the phone number on your ad there while they're on Google and clicked on it if they were on a mobile device, because Google can track that. And if you check in your conversions menu, you can actually see a goal called calls from ads, which Google creates automatically for you. For every time someone clicks on this phone number on their mobile device, it'll show up as a conversion on this calls from ads goal or conversion goal, excuse me. So that tracking is set up for you by default. Taking a step further, if you go to Callrail or your call tracking provider and you set up a dedicated call tracking number to put in this call extension spot on your ad, then you can start to track how many calls, not just whether or not they clicked on the phone number, but did they call it. And then also that obviously adds in, if you're on a desktop device, using the second scenario I gave you, and they type that number that they saw on the ad in their phone and then called, it'll also call the people that used the phone number that way. And I'll tell you up front, the amount of people that Google says that number of calls you got from your call extension, which they only track if somebody's clicked on that number to import the number into their phone app, it's actually certainly overcounting in terms of calls. So what Google wants to make you think is every time someone clicks on this phone number and shows up under calls from ads in your conversion menu, that you got a call. The reality, as far as we've seen, is for every time someone clicks on this number, you get a call about 50% of the time. Why? Because people accidentally click on their phone numbers. Sometimes they click on the phone number and they don't call. There's different reasons for this. Not to say it will be 50% in your market, but a lot of times, if I just average it out over time, that seems to be the case. And how do we know that? Because we compare having an actual tracking number and seeing the number of calls that come through to the number of times that people click on that phone number itself. So, but those are, it certainly could be different in your market. It depends. Sometimes what they say you're getting is pretty much 90% of what you're getting. Sometimes in some markets, what they say you're getting is barely what you're getting. So that's why you want to have call tracking set up so that you could actually verify the calls that are coming through that call extension number. And then that data can also go ahead and help Google and their ad serving algorithm get you better and better results. The more data you have coming into your account that's useful to Google, the more that Google can get you in terms of total leads and cheaper cost per lead. As well as yourself can go in and optimize your ads and perhaps shut off certain things like different times of the day that aren't working for you, or certain parts of the city that aren't working for you, and so forth. So if you set up a call tracking number, and with that you have the integration between, if you're using Callrail, I'll speak of Callrail since we use Callrail, the direct integration between Callrail and Google Ads set up. Every time once that system is set up, that somebody calls your call tracking number that you've set up through Callrail and put in as your call tracking number inside your Google Ads account under the call extension, you're going to have under the conversion goal that's automatically set up for you through the Callrail integration with your Google Ads account, every call through that call extension number will trigger another call. It will show you how many calls you got if you're tracking calls from your website itself, but it'll also, if they called through the ad extension itself, they'll also trigger a goal for that. So ultimately what you'll have is all calls from website plus calls from the call extension. And then you'll be able to use, again, have more data for Google to help you get more calls and to optimize your ads, as well as for yourself to optimize ads, given you'll be able to see the total amount of calls you got, not just how many calls like from your website, or how many calls, how many people basically clicked on your phone number to call, and have more accurate data to go on. Now, from there, I mentioned all of this because I wanted you to understand in terms of the call extension, what kind of tracking is possible, what you can do with call tracking programs that's going to help you get more results. You certainly should do everything I just mentioned to you there. You're going to get the most results in your market that way. There's only so much pie to get in your local market. Doing all the little things that are going to get you an edge on your competition is just going to give you that much more of the pie. Taking things a step further here now, you can actually set up a unique phone number for every area code you operate in for 30+% more results in most cases. So to do this is ultimately what you got to have in place. First of all, you need to break your campaigns up by city or county so that you have separate campaigns in your account for every city or county in the geographic area that you're targeting. So most companies that are doing business locally, they don't just target, let's say, Orlando, they target the Orlando metro area, because Orlando is just obviously a small part of the Orlando metro that is like a third of the population. And there's all these suburbs and everything around it, and you want to target customers all in these suburbs as well. So unlike what most of your competition might do, which is to create one campaign for the entire Orlando metro area, you're going to go ahead and set up a campaign for each one of these individual areas that are in the Orlando metro area. What I do is if we're working for a client and we want to get the best results we can, but within a reasonable amount of time, we'll look at the Orlando area itself and we'll find all the cities within the Orlando area that has 50,000 or more population in them, and then we'll put that into a list and we'll have separate campaigns for every one of those cities. And then for the people that are in cities that are under a city that has 50,000 or less people in it, we'll have a catch-all campaign that they're picked up by a campaign that targets the entire county itself. And if there's more than one county that covers the so-called Orlando area in this case, we'll have multiple catch-all campaigns so that if they're in a city under 50K in population, but they're in, we'll have a campaign that for their county that picks them up. But if they're in another county, that campaign will pick them up over there, so to say. So, because obviously setting a campaign up for every city in your area, it's too much. You would have a lot of times 100 different campaigns to set up. I don't necessarily recommend that, even though that technically would get you the best results if you had basically an unlimited amount of time for you to do your work. That's what I would do. But in most metropolitan areas, any city over 50K in population, if you do the method I just shared with you, you'll end up with about 20 campaigns, which is manageable. And then you'll have your campaign for the county as a whole, which covers all the people under the cities under 50K in population. And with that, you can actually then set up all your ads to save the name of the city the user's in, So then when they're searching for your service or product, their location is in the ad. And furthermore, you could set it up so that where you take them to on your site says the exact city where they're at. And that little hack right there gives you way more results than you had it before. Certainly the holy grail is whatever they're searching for, that should be in the ad, and then the city they're in should be in the ad, and where you're taking them to should say in the headline of the page what they were searching for and what city they're in. That right there will give you 3 times as much results as you had without that, just simply applied to your campaigns. So with that, we'll then set up this structure. This structure here now sets us up so that if on our call extension, going back to that, if we want a localized phone number to show up for that user's city, we can do it. Given most metropolitan areas, there's multiple area codes that cover that area. So you can actually set up unique phone numbers for each area code that is in your metropolitan area. And on each campaign, you can decide what area code is best, is most represented in this city, or what city does this area code, or what area code does this city have? And you could, once you find out what area code that is, then you go ahead and go to Callrail, set yourself up a tracking number for your call extension, like I mentioned before, and make sure that number that now has an area code that matches that city is now used as your call extension number in that campaign that's supposed to target that individual city. Going further, to get the rest of the results for yourself, you should actually, by the way, on your landing page you're taking people to, that should also have a phone number that matches the area code that represents or that is tied to that city as well. Which, to get technical about this, the tracking number you set up for the call extension and the tracking numbers you set up for the landing page are going to be different from different pools, as they call it. The reason for that is because the tracking that you do on your website is going to be done through a dynamic phone number. So if there's multiple people on the site at the same time, each person that's on the site at the same time that came through your ad gets a unique number, so the Callrail tracking system doesn't mess up its tracking, so to say. But with that, we do the same thing. If that person, we make sure the landing pages we're taking people to, given we always want the user's city to be in the headline of the landing page for maximum results. We'll find out what the area code is for that city and make sure the tracking number they see is a tracking number in that city itself, in that area code itself, so that if they're in, the city of Orlando, and Orlando's mostly this area code, the phone number they see will have that same area code in it on the landing page. That in itself will typically give you 15% higher conversion rates on your landing page, by the way. If the phone number on your landing page matches, in terms of the area code, matches the area code of the user as they hit the landing page, because it just makes it easy for the person to know you're local. If you have an 800 number there, it's like, well, is this company local? Are they not? And any little thing that causes people to question themselves is going to hurt your conversion rates. So by having the city name on the page and then having the phone number be, a phone number that matches that area, the user is going to know right away you cover their area. And if you're asking why, well, if they already see the city name on the page, why does the phone number have to be local? Because a lot of people are going to see the phone number and they're going to think maybe this is just like a bait and switch type of situation. Whereas they're going to be more sure about what you're saying if the phone number also matches the city. Because in their mind, they're taking a big risk of wasting time calling you. And the more sure about like you cover their area before they call, the more likely they are going to be wanting to call. They want to know, can you do it? Do you cover the area? Can I trust you before they call? And the quicker you can communicate those 3 things, the more people are just going to call in general. But as tying this all together, you want the landing page to have a phone number that has an area code that matches that user's location. And you want the call extension to have a phone number that has an area code that matches their location, because you're going to get the highest results that way. So, going back to the how-to for this, if you have a campaign set up so that each city in your metro area that you cover has its own campaign, then you could buy a unique tracking number for each city or for each area code that's within your general metro area that you're covering, so that the user is always going to see now a local number with local area code for that user, no matter where in the city that they're at. And so each campaign you'll deliberately decide which number and the call extension number they're going to ultimately see and get for that campaign based upon what area code typically matches that city in general. So to keep it simple, you go ahead and you look at if you don't already know it, you look at a map of your general metro area. You see all the area codes that cover the area that you're in. You buy that many tracking numbers for your call extensions, and then you match up campaign by campaign whatever call extension number that matches with that location that campaign represents. Then ultimately when you've done that, you'll end up with 15, 30, 45, potentially 60% more calls from that call extension than if you only had just one phone number in the call extension for your entire area and for all the campaigns in your account. So, and this even goes for, by the way, if you even had a local phone number in your call extension, not an 800 number, which an 800 number would be an absolute killer. Because people see that and they think, oh, this is a national company. I don't want a national company. But even if you had an area code that was local and phone number that looked local to your area in your call extension, you're still going to get 20, 30, 40, 50% more people calling your number that's on the call extension if the area code they see is the actual literal area code that matches the area that they're in, that they're searching from, which is why you do this and why this actually works. So you could actually put a local number and just use that local number for everybody in your area, given you have different area codes in your area, or you can actually make sure the phone number and the area code on the phone number via that call extension matches the area code that they're in, and get the full amount of number of call extension calls that's possible using the call extension tool or device, whatever you want to call it, to get you calls for your company coming in from your Google Ads campaigns. So to give you an example, this, like I said, it can vary, depends on the market. One thing you'll know is whatever amount of calls you're getting now from the call extensions, it will go up with this method. The only question is how much. And it seems to just perform a little differently market to market in terms of the size of the increase you're going to get. And obviously in some markets, half of your calls, like I said, are going to come from call extension calls. And this can have a dramatic impact on the amount of money that you're making as a result. But regardless of what percentage of your calls come from people calling from the website or the call extension number, you will get a rise. And that rise should be actually worth your time going ahead and spending the extra 15 minutes to go and make sure you have unique phone numbers for every area code that is in your area. And then the campaigns, respectively, have a localized phone number for every user, so they always see an area code that matches their area when they search and find your call extension number on your ad. In the pest control space specifically, to give you the first example here, that pest control area in Arizona, the state of Arizona, the Phoenix area, that specifically had generated 44% more call extension calls than we got before. Because we were just using one call extension number for all of our clients for a long time. And then eventually we got into testing this and we realized, well, it matters a lot. I always kind of knew it would matter, but I didn't think necessarily it could matter this much, and it certainly did. To where, from going from one localized number to multiple, we had a 44% increase in the amount of calls that we got from the call extension specifically. In the HVAC services space in the Northeast, we got a 20% increase in the calls from the call extensions after we applied local numbers to the call extensions. What I will say is the bigger the area that you're targeting, if you're targeting a fairly large area, this is certainly going to probably bring you more calls, because the farther the area code is from the user, obviously the more likely they're going to think, well, this company may not just come to me, I'll just go to the next listing here and call them. The uncertainty rises if they know the area code that they see on the number, and the farther, of course, assuming they know that area code, and the farther away that it is, the less likely they're going to call. So this is particularly important if you're covering not just like a little city, but you're targeting like a 50-mile radius of where you're at, or even a 100-mile radius where you're at. It'd be even more important. In the crime scene cleanup space, where you have people, murders and suicides and stuff, the company comes in and cleans up that mess. We had a 17% increase in our calls from call extensions once we employed this methodology. This has worked enough now that every single campaign that we work on here at our agency that's doing local, for clients doing local business, we're using this every single time now, because it's clear you're going to, for an extra 20, 30, 40, 50% more calls by doing nothing but having several call extension numbers to use in our campaigns versus one, we're going to get that perpetually after once we've set that up for the client. So, which is the reason why I'm sharing this information with you today. All the working strategies we have at our agency, we share with you on this channel. So with that said, that pretty much sums up the methodology of how you're going to get 44% more call extension calls for your business. Multiple call extension numbers, one per area code that covers your area, making sure your campaigns are broken up enough so that if users are in 712 area code, they're going to see a call extension with 712 area code. And for the area code 480, users that are searching from 480 will see a call extension showing 480. So buy several tracking numbers instead of one, and then piecing them out so that the campaigns get the appropriate tracking number, so people always see a phone number that's localized to them, so they don't get confused or doubtful, or as much doubtful as they were before, assuming you didn't have the local area code showing for them on your call extension number. If you have any questions, by the way, about anything I shared with you today, leave me a comment below. I get back to every single person who leaves me a comment on this channel, usually within a couple days' time. If you have any other questions about PPC, feel free to leave me a comment. I'll try to certainly help you out. I try to help out all my viewers on this channel. If you liked the video, I'd appreciate it if you would give it a like and consider subscribing to this channel, as I have a ton of other content like this and stuff we're testing that we find works that we're sharing with you on this channel. And if you did nothing else besides just absorb and use the strategy information that I'm giving you here today, you're going to beat all the rest of the people in your market, because we have the liberty of having millions of dollars of ad spend to test certain things that work that you may certainly not be able to do, that you can see exactly what's working, what's not working with Google, Facebook, and so forth just by watching this channel, and as well as the stuff to stay away from, which is just as important. So you should certainly subscribe. If you like the channel already and you want to see more, I also have a blog at guaranteedppc.com/blog, where you can find additional information on strategies that work to make money with PPC, stuff that we're using to actively guarantee results on our clients' campaigns. So if you like the channel, you'll also like the blog. As a part of all that, certainly everything that I do at my agency, I share with you guys on the channel. If you, though, are too busy to execute this stuff, I can do all this stuff that I mentioned on my channel for you. And we offer guarantee results on our campaigns. That's why we're called Guarantee PPC. Meaning, if you're making $5,000 a month on your campaigns now, and ultimately you come to us and we know we can help you, which most of the time we can help, we'll come in and say, hey, Larry or Jane, we'll offer you an additional $5,000 a month in profit on top of the $5,000 in profit a month that you're making now from your campaigns as a starter with our firm, in which we won't even charge you a dime for that, with the understanding that once we've done that for you, you'll work with us on a paid basis after that. And so it's kind of like a free trial that we offer at our firm, in that we'll earn our keep before there's a fee that we charge from our side, and we're kind of financing your results. So we obviously can't work with everybody, but if you do want to find out if we can help you and by how much we can help you, we'll give you those estimates if you just reach out to our firm, and we'll find out and see if there's a fit. But if you're interested in having somebody just take the reins that really knows what they're doing, I personally strategize all the client accounts that we manage here, and use my team to execute and get guaranteed results for our clients, and it could certainly be yours as well. So anyway, if you want to find out we can work with you, reach out to Guaranteed PPC at guaranteedppc.com. That said, I'll wrap it up with that. Hopefully you enjoyed this video. It was useful for you, and hope to see you on my next video where we have another great strategy for you there too. See you there.